Hey guys, Chris here with the Crybell Cottage. Today I'm going to do a really quick winter tour of my garden. You know, it's that time of year when gardeners are staring outside at the snow-covered beds, wishing that it was March or April or May or whenever they get out there to work in their garden. I usually start about March, cleaning things up and building some new beds, that sort of thing. But I just wanted to give you a quick tour because we're between snows, where the snow that was on the ground the last few days has melted and we're getting ready to get more snow and ice tonight. So I thought, while you can still see everything, I will show you my garden as it looks right now. So hang with me. Okay guys, here is my garden in winter. It is the first day of February. So over here, this little deck area, that was actually, the deck was falling apart, like the concrete was unstable, so that was repaired and the fence and the steps were put up last spring. Pretty excited to have that. It doesn't look super great, but it's better, trust me, it's way better than what it looked like. I'll try to find a picture and post it showing what it looked like. Then over here, this area is kind of my seating area where I have a firebolt that was handed down to me from my parents. So everything in my garden is pretty low cost. I try to do everything sort of thrifty. In fact, these pieces of PVC pipe that you see here, I actually picked those up at the Habitat for Humanity Restore for $2 a piece, and I will be using them to make hoops in my garden. You can actually see out there some of the hoops. So last year, this area that you see here was all grass. And the only beds that I had, like I didn't have any of this, the only beds I had were these two front raised beds. I put those in spring 2020 when things started getting crazy. I actually had a major surgery in June, so I couldn't do a ton of gardening, but I did put in these two first raised beds, and I planted some green beans, some tomatoes. I think I planted some other things, but the only thing I got was like a handful of green beans and a ton of tomatoes. And I didn't do a whole lot with the produce that year. I ended up dehydrating most of the tomatoes, and I made tomato powder as well as dehydrated tomatoes. So then last year, actually in the fall, after the growing season was over, I built 4 more raised beds, and you can see those back behind there. And then I put in these hog panel trellises that go over the tops of the beds. And so I filled these 6 beds with all kinds of things. I had some brassicas, I had a bed of corn, I had lots of tomatoes, strawberries in one bed, asparagus in another bed, and did pretty good. So I did a lot of water bath canning of tomatoes this year. I had a bumper crop of tomatoes. But this year I want to do some pressure canning, so I'm expanding my garden. So, at the end of the growing season this year, in fall 2021, I built 3 more raised beds over here, got those filled with soil. And I had some leftover soil, which you can see there in the pile, so I decided to build myself some more raised beds. So I started this process in December or early January, and I did as much as I could, and then the ground just froze. I couldn't get out here. The mulch froze in place. But basically, I use the lasagna gardening method. So what I do is I take grass, you can see here, I get large sheets of cardboard from the furniture stores. There's one near me. I used to go into the furniture stores and ask for it, but there's one near me now where they just put the cardboard outside in a dumpster, and they say I can take as much as I want. So I just go in there and get these big sheets of cardboard from the furniture store. And then normally I get loads of mulch delivered, and I spread the mulch in a very thick layer on top of the cardboard, and that essentially kills most of the grass and weeds and gives you a nice blank slate. This time, however, instead of paying for mulch, I realized that one of my extended family members has a tree trimming business and has loads of wood chips. So he gave me this load of wood chips for free. I'm so excited about that. So this is something I'm working on. As you can see, I still have cardboard in areas that hasn't been covered. I put a few piles of mulch down or wood chips down to kind of keep it in place. Over here, the cardboard has blown away, so I need to get it back out here, but the weather, it's wintertime. It's been kind of crazy. But there you go. You can see what I've got. My 9 beds that I've had since this fall, and then in this spot here in front of me I will put 6 more beds. So I will have 15 beds, is that right? 15 beds when it's all said and done. Now most of the beds are going to be annual vegetables and fruits, but I am trying to plant as many perennials as possible. So like I said, I have a bed of nothing but asparagus. I have a bed of strawberries. I'm actually going to be putting in another bed of asparagus, maybe one of Egyptian walking onions, possibly a second bed of strawberries, and we'll see what else I can come up with. But slowly I'm moving towards more perennial food sources because I just think as a prepper it's better to have something that comes back every year. So there you can see where I'm going to put in the additional beds, and then you can see again those cattle panels that I have. So this is my veggie garden area that's in progress. I'll probably won't be able to get this actually finished until later this month or maybe in March when things start to warm up a little bit and the ground is not as frozen. Now you can see I have those cattle panel, actually they're hog panel trellises between my beds. Those are the ones I used last year. I grew peas on some of them, and I grew scarlet runner beans on one of the panels. This year I'm going to put in 4 trellises of scarlet runner beans. They're supposedly perennial. They're a really great bean. They're beautiful. You can eat them when they're as a green bean when they're young and tender, and then you can let them dry on the vine, and you can harvest them as a soup bean. So I made chili out of the beans that I harvested this year, so I want to plant a lot more of those beans. But there you can see the trellis, which is just a hog panel with 2 6-foot T-posts. So I use the hog panels instead of the cattle panels because my beds are 4 feet wide and the cattle panels are just a little too wide. So then over here in this portion of the garden, which doesn't look like much, I have the start of an orchard. I planted 13 fruit trees last spring, and I would say about half of them didn't make it. 4 of them I got from a pretty well-known nursery, but I chopped them down pretty short. I'm trying to do the grow a little fruit tree method. You can see here one of them did not do so good. So actually all 4 of the ones that I got from a name brand online nursery did not do well. I need to get those actually replaced by the company because they do have a 1-year guarantee. The other ones I got from big box stores using food stamps. You can buy fruit trees and berry bushes with food stamps. So I've got like 2 or 3 of each type. I've got pear, peach, apple, plum. I feel like I'm missing one. Yeah, that's the gist of it. And 2 or 3 different varieties of each type of fruit so we can get cross-pollination. So they're planted pretty close together. I am trying to keep them very small, cut them low so they have a low scaffold. This year when I plant them, I may let some of them get a little taller and branch out a little bit more before I cut them because like I said, these ones that I cut back never recovered. But I've got several trees that did. So that's where we are at that mini orchard over here. Eventually I will have bees, but I want to get my orchard well established and my perennial garden well established too. Here between the raised garden beds and the perennial garden with the rocks, I put in some berry canes. I have red raspberries, yellow raspberries, boysenberries, and I think blackberries. Maybe not boysenberries, yeah, blackberries. And they seem like a good place for them. A couple of the berry canes didn't make it, but honestly the blackberries, which are in the middle there, are out of control, and everybody warned me, don't put blackberries in a place where they can't go crazy because they will. So I didn't listen. I put them there. I really shouldn't have. I'm going to move them back towards the back part of my property once I get those other garden beds finished. I'm going to dig these up and maybe put in either an expanded perennial bed here or put in 3 more raised beds. But that's what I have going on here, some berry canes. And in this area, once again, this was all built last year. Like I said, in 2020, the only thing I built was 2 raised beds. They measure 4 by 8. And then in 2021, I built all the rest of these beds, all of the trellises, and then I put all of this perennial bed in with the paths. This was all grass. So here we have all kinds of perennials, things like lavender. I have a lot of aromatics, a lot of edibles and medicinals. In fact, I try not to plant a perennial if it doesn't have some sort of use. Which is hard because there's some really pretty ones like columbine that I really, really enjoy, but I haven't found a good use for them. So I have, like I said, lavender. I've also got some blueberries in here. I've got coneflower, Russian sage, Shasta daisies, various types of sage over here. I do have a hardy fig growing over there. Bronze fennel, chives, yarrow, different types of yarrow. I love yarrow, I love lavender, anything aromatic. Horehound, marjoram, lovage, hollyhocks. Hollyhocks are actually edible, if you didn't know that. So all kinds of herbs. This is my cistern, which I show in my very first video. I show you my underground cistern that I use for emergency water. But yeah, so you can see. And then I put random things in these pots over the summer. I had some leftover strawberries that didn't fit in my bed, so I put them there last year. They probably won't make it through the winter, but you can put whatever you want. And then on these two trellises here in the front that are in the perennial bed, I have grapes. I've got red grapes on one and green grapes on the other, and I don't remember the varieties off the top of my head. And then over here I tried to plant hardy kiwi, but it didn't really do very well, so I might try kiwi again, or I might try another variety of grapes. Sorry, it's getting kind of fuzzy there. Yeah, so that's what I got going on here. Yeah, all perennials and herbs. I have a lot of medicinal herbs that I don't know how to use yet, but I want to know how to use them. So I've planted them so they could get established while I'm trying to learn. And then one other thing I wanted to show you is this contraption over here. Let me get so the sun's not shining. Okay, so this is an old playhouse. I am in my 40s, and when I was a kid, my dad bought this called an eagle's nest. It had a swing set attached to it, and he built this on our property, which is nearby, and it's been for the last 30 plus years. So recently my dad decided to get rid of it. My brother cut the legs down and hauled it to my house and kind of just threw it in my yard. It is going to serve as the base for my chicken coop. So this will be the coop. I need to put a roof on it and sides and all that stuff, nesting boxes. And then out behind here, I will build a run attached to the coop. Goes underneath this crabapple tree. In case you didn't know, that's where the name of my channel comes from. The only tree on my property is this crabapple. It's a really old crabapple. It's probably not going to last too much longer. It's got a lot of issues. But my thought was having the chicken run underneath the crabapple tree is really good because chickens can eat the crabapples as they fall. So that's kind of where I am right now with my winter garden. You know, it's killing me not to be able to do much out here yet. If it warms up a little bit and stays warm, I might try to get out here and finish my garden bed so I'm all ready for when planting season comes. Obviously, I'll be starting seeds, you know, in a couple of months. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I just look out here wistfully and start planning what I'm going to put where and ordering seeds and that sort of thing. So stick with me, and as the season goes on, I will show you more of my garden as it starts to flourish. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.